If you were worried about where you're going to host your podcast in the new year, never fear. Your girl, Miss Ileane, is here and I'll help you decide where to host your podcast in the coming year. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm Ileane, and today I want to talk to you about podcasting, one of my favorite topics, and some of the things that you should think about, that you should take into consideration before you choose a host for your podcast. So let's kick things off first. What do I mean by hosting your podcast? Well, you want your podcast to be listed in the major podcast directories. For example, iTunes. Oh, my bad. I said that wrong. It has been rebranded and it's now Apple Podcasts. I kind of did that on purpose. Just wanted to see if you were paying attention. Apple Podcasts has the lion's share of podcasts and where people are searching for podcasts and listening to podcasts. Then there's also the Google Play Store. Then there's a few other places that are really ones that you look to when you want to think about looking for a podcast. Now, those hosting companies will create an RSS feed for you. That's why having a host is important. You know, it sounds so technical. It sounds so complicated. Like, what is an RSS feed? How do I get one? Where do I get one? I get this question all the time, especially now that I'm using Anchor. And in case you haven't heard of Anchor.fm, that is a place where you can use to get your podcast listed on Apple Podcasts and Google Play and other directories like Overcast. So, with that said, you need a host in order to literally put your audio files on their servers. You don't want to use your blog's web host to do that. You don't want to use Google Drive because, first of all, the way the podcast host consumes your feed, it needs to make sure that it doesn't go down, that you don't have issues with updating the feed and all of that. So the feed has to be valid in terms of Apple Podcast. So you need a hosting provider for that reason. And so, with that said, let's talk a little bit more about the different options that you have out there for your hosting. Because remember, the host is going to provide the RSS feed. The RSS feed is really a critical component of your podcast. Because what happens is the RSS feed actually says, hey, there's a new episode, there's a new item, there's a new consumable here from this content provider. Let me go ahead and download it for you. That's what the RSS feed does for you. So you want a host that's reliable and has a lot of experience in delivering this RSS feed that has a great reputation. And also you want one that's affordable because most of them do have some type of fee associated with them. And typically the fee is determined by how much storage you use and the stats that you're going to get from the host. Okay. So with all of that said, let me just say that we'll keep Anchor a little separate. How are your smart devices going? Oh, okay. We're going to talk about that too, because that's another place where podcasts are starting to get listened to is on the smart devices. And hey, Taryn, Dr. Taryn and Rodney is here as well. And when you're talking about the Amazon Echo, whose name I can't say right now because she's listening, and of course, Google Home, and I don't know if Apple's coming out with the Air, whatever they want to call it, in the next few months, but these are places that also people can consume podcasts as well as in their cars and all of that. Now, those things aren't the big share of the podcast consumption, but they do play a role. And I think that you need to consider that your podcast will be in those places because the way the podcast is referred to, how it's searched for, and all of that. Oh my gosh, I got a super chat. So that must mean it's time to show the chat. Hey, he says, Dr. Taryn Lupo says, thanks for all the help over the years with the $5 super chat. Thank you so much, Dr. Taryn. So with that, that just reminds me that I need to take a little bit of a break and show what's going on in the chat. And so we have first off, Tish was the first one here. My hashtagologist, Tish. And then Katie is here as well. And then Dr. Taryn came in. And then also Rodney has come in. And then we got the super chat. And thanks for all the help over the years. You're very much appreciated, sir. Thank you so much for the super chat. So let's talk about the hosting providers that I recommend. Either I've used these myself or through the time of me podcasting, which has been since 2009. So that's 9 years. And me following podcasts about podcasting and being really part of the fabric of the podcasting community. I have had experience through my podcasting mentors of the podcasting hosts that have been very reliable and have also done a fantastic job of customer service. That's important. That's important, right? So, like I said, we're going to leave Anchor to the side because Anchor is separate. They don't operate the same way as these other hosts that I'm going to mention. So here's my list. I know the moment you've all been waiting for. I'm going to give you my list in order of preference. Okay, I got to put my glasses on, even though I should know this by heart. Number 1 is going to be Libsyn. And that stands for Liberated Syndication. So it's Libsyn. You go over to Libsyn.com and you can use my friend, Dave Jackson. He has a promo code that'll help you get 1 month free. And that promo code is SOP free. And you can also use that same promo code over at Blubrry. Now, Blubrry is Raw Voice is the name of the parent company, and Todd Cochran, he runs that operation. And Blubrry is spelled without the E's. So it's Blubrry. And actually, I should have said this next one as my second choice, and that's Spreaker. Spreaker is like speakers, but with an R. Spreaker. Spreaker. I absolutely love Spreaker, and I actually host a podcast over on Spreaker because I have 3 podcasts right now. Okay, I have one that's on Libsyn, which is on the Apple Podcast, and I also have one that's through Anchor. But then there's a third one that's on the Spreaker platform, which is the one that is not listed in Apple Podcasts. Okay, so that's my own personal setup. I don't recommend that setup for anybody else, just so you'll know. But here's what I love about Spreaker. You can go live with audio on Spreaker's platform. Spreaker is the only host that actually has built-in recording and podcast creation tools. So you can do it from your desktop. You can do it from your phone. You can bring in others via Skype. And as I said that, I just remembered that, hi, hey, Pam, I had not given anyone the link if anybody wants to come in and chat with me. So I'm going to post that link over. Whoa, sorry, wrong link. And hopefully someone will want to come in. And I see Pam Gomez is here, and she's got a lot of great stuff going on. Maybe she'll want to come in and fill us in on that. You never know. She may want to do a podcast. I first posted over for my patrons and in our patrons notification squad group there. All right. So I see Pam said that she has dinner, a dinner invite, but dinner can wait. So anyway, there's for those folks who want to join in, you can. So now there's one more host that I didn't get a chance to. I got so excited talking about Spreaker because I absolutely love Spreaker, and Blubrry is great too. It's just that I haven't really used Blubrry in a while. I used them when I first started, but I haven't used them in a while. But I actively use Libsyn and Spreaker. Those are my two go-tos right now. So the next one that I recommend is Podbean. And that one's spelled just the way it sounds, Podbean. And the cool thing about Podbean is they actually have a component in there that's similar to Patreon. And you can be a patron of a podcast on Podbean. Now, I actually just stopped using Podbean recently, and only because, like how many hosts can one girl have for a podcast? I got YouTube, so. So, but Podbean was fine, and our friend, I'll give him a shout out, Guy R. Cook. He has his podcast over there, and it's the Guy R. Cook Show.podbean.com. He does an amazing show every weekday, like a 15 minute podcast, daily podcast that he does. And he uses Podbean. So he's very pleased with it. And they give you sort of like a mini web page, like a blog page for you to do your show notes on. So, okay. What is the cost on Spreaker? Rodney? That I was not prepared, but what I can do is I can actually go over there and look and see and tell you, Rodney, I'm not sure if you've had this problem before when you go on live. Sometimes YouTube doesn't like when you do too many screen shares on desktop. So this one, I'm not going to screen share, and I'll just tell you. So for $5.99 a month or $59 annually, that's what they call the on-air talent. The broadcaster, which is my plan, which is $20 a month or $200 annually. The Anchorman, which is the one they keep trying to get me to upgrade to, but I refuse. And that Anchorman is $50. I'm sorry. Yeah, $50 a month or $500 annually. And then there's one that's like for stations, people that have more than one show. Like if you were hosting a bunch of different podcasts that you wanted to have under the umbrella of your network, then that would be $119 or $1,200 annually. Okay. Things I may do one day in the future. Well, that brings me really quickly to Anchor. Anchor is a free host. However, whenever there's free, there's a cost of free, right? And the cost with the Anchor podcast is that you give up control. So I recommend Anchor to folks who not really sure what they want to podcast about, not really sure how podcasting works, not really sure if podcasting is, if they even have enough ideas or enough content for a podcast. You can try Anchor out and get a feel for the whole concept of podcasting, get your gear together, and all that. And then you can graduate, so to speak, over to Libsyn or Blubrry or Spreaker. So with that, Also, Tech India Firm is here. Hey, hey, hey. And Katie said that would be me. Yes, Katie, that's the beauty of Anchor. It doesn't cost you anything. However, and here's what I mean when I say that you lose control. Remember earlier, I was talking about the RSS feeds, right? RSS feed is your critical component of your podcast. Once you have that feed, that is what you submit to iTunes or Apple Podcasts. All right. And like sometimes people will say, well, how do I upload my files to iTunes? Well, you don't. They take your RSS feed because you set up an account with them. You probably already have an account, especially if you have a Mac, because the iTunes software, now that is really iTunes. The software is already pre-installed on your computer, right? And then you go ahead and connect that because that's how you can listen to music and all that from your computer. And then you go ahead and, you have to sign up for that account and you can subscribe to podcasts that way as well. So that same email address is the email address that you use to submit your podcast. Okay. And you know what? I do have a blog post that sort of goes through some of this. And actually, I was talking about in this particular blog post, I have several blog posts where I talk about podcasting. Okay. But this particular one, and I am going to risk the screen share to show you this because this is a good, worthwhile. It's over on my IleaneSmith.com blog. And I'll grab that link too for you. And this is all talking about the rankings of your podcast and understanding how your podcast is being ranked. Okay, so this is a good one to get a good idea about once you do start podcasting, how do you determine if your podcast is really a good one or not? And so I'm going to post this link over here in the chat and you guys can check that out. You can check it out later on. Don't leave the live stream, okay? Don't want you to do that. All right. So let me come back. And all right. So stop screen sharing. Okay, yay, let me come back. Good. Okay. So now I've kind of given you guys a little bit of an overview and let me just make sure I didn't miss anything. All right. So we talked about the RSS feeds. We talked about the reason you need a podcast host. Okay. You don't want to host it on your website. And I didn't tell you why. Here's one reason why you don't want to host on your website. Let's just say, for example, your show gets popular. And you may even have had this problem before with if your blog or your website got popular. Your host will tell you, oh, no, you're getting too much traffic over there, especially if you got like shared hosting or what they call VPS hosting. Your host is not equipped. Your website host is not equipped to keep up with all the bandwidth and all the requirements needed to deliver that RSS feed so that it can be consumed because it could be hundreds of people coming to listen to your podcast at the same time. Once you start building up your subscribers, right? It's not like YouTube where you don't have to worry. You can have hundreds of people watching you, right? On a website, that's a problem for your host because they're not anticipating that kind of traffic and they will shut you down. There's been incidents where people have gotten shut down or even worse, people can't listen to your podcast, so once you have decided that you do want to do a podcast and you can use Anchor to test out your ideas, or you can just say, look, I'm going to go for it. I don't want to bother with Anchor because I want that control. Then that's when you would go to Libsyn, Libsyn, Blubrry without the E's, Blubrry, Spreaker, speaker with an R, or Podbean. Okay, so that was a quick recap, but I do have more to tell you. There are some hosts, and some of them may even charge, but there's a couple of them that I do not recommend. And so I'm just going to put it out there because, everybody thinks I'm this little Miss Nice gal. But sometimes I just have to be honest with you. So let's just talk about it and get it over with. And one of them would be Audio Boom. Audio Boom. Hey, it's Author. Hi. Hi, Author. Audio Boom is one that I don't recommend. They limit how many podcast episodes you can do in one day and all of that. And there's Beauty Bubble. Hey, hey. Thanks, Beauty Bubble. Said everyone hold on to your mics. So Audio Boo, it used to be called Audio Boo, and they used to do like 5-minute segments, very similar to Anchor, but not as active of a community. But they changed to Audio Boom. I don't know if they got bought out or what, but I would avoid that one. I would avoid that one. If you want to just do the short form podcast, just use Anchor. Use Anchor because right now Anchor is pretty stable. I would say looking forward to the next at least 6 months of them before they think about changing their business model. Because they just got a big infusion of cash. All right. So the next one that I would avoid as a primary podcasting host is SoundCloud. And SoundCloud is very attractive. People like the players that SoundCloud provides. But that's another thing. I do want to talk about players. So I'm going to go back to this conversation about players. A lot of the players are nice. It's not just SoundCloud. But I would not use them as a primary host. You can use them as a secondary host. In other words, you don't use that RSS feed from SoundCloud. You just use it to get traffic. And if you want that player, you want to put that player on your website, then you would also not just upload your files to Libsyn or to Blubrry, but then you can also upload them to SoundCloud just so people have another place to consume your content. And out the corner of my eye, I can see that the chat is jumping. So I'm going to risk it and I'm going to screen share the chat so I can read what you guys are saying. Okay, people are saying hi to Beauty, I guess. Oh, and Carla said SoundCloud still has a cash flow problem. I honestly don't know, Carla. The last I heard, they had this big cash flow problem, and then somebody came and gave them some money, but who knows if that's enough money, because it's just like it's not worth following that back and forth. This has been going on for at least 3 or 4 years with SoundCloud. They didn't just start having these financial problems. It's been going on for a long time. And quite frankly, I had enough of trying to follow along and keep up with them. I will go over there and listen to podcasts, but only in a pinch. Only if I can't find the podcast on iTunes or somewhere else. I will listen on desktop. I don't even have that SoundCloud app on my phone. Pat Murray is there. Hey, Pat. Pat, if you want to come in, or Beauty, if you want to come in, I will send that link over, and that's the name of it. I couldn't remember it. Okay. Thanks for telling me that. I didn't know that about SoundCloud. Oh, yeah. If you just do it, Carla, I know you're very good with doing searches and you're so organized and all that stuff. Just do SoundCloud, search for SoundCloud and money problems, or SoundCloud, funding problems. And you'll see that it goes back. Some of the older articles may even come up in the search before the last round of financial issues. Okay. There's another one that I also don't recommend as your main podcasting host, but they are good as a secondary one. And that's Mixcloud. Mixcloud. That's just another host, very similar to SoundCloud. I mean, they're almost like a SoundCloud clone, but I've actually never heard of them having financial issues, and probably because nobody really pays Mixcloud too much attention, but I like them. I thought the platform was very easy to use, and I do have some of my podcasts over there. So let's go back and talk about players. But with that, let me take a little sip. I have to have my afternoon time energy boost. Pam is here. Hey, Pam.
Hey, Ileane.
Let me let you get
Yep.
the big spotlight.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
You were right.
we lost your audio.
Hmm?
Say it again. Repeat that.
I do have that dinner starting at 3 o'clock, the family dinner. So I'm just here briefly, and I don't want to be late because in my family, if you're late, you're doing the dishes.
Oh, cool. Well, you know what? Hang on for one second that we have a podcasting legend in the house. Amen. We've got
Ooh,
Rob Greenlee from
ooh,
Speaker. He has been one of my favorite podcasters. He is right now currently working with Spreaker, and he's the head of their partner relationships. I know I said that wrong, Rob, but I gave the essence of it, right? So he is the man. Make sure y'all follow him here as well as on Twitter, and I always want you guys to connect with each other. So what you do is you go over and you click on those three dots, see, and we'll see where it says go to channel. But also you can follow Rob on Twitter, and his handle is just like his name with two E's. So it's Rob Greenlee. And he is just someone who's just done so much for the podcasting community. And I was listening to both of his shows over the last couple of days. He's got the Spreaker live show that he does with Alex Exum, and he also has the new media show, which he does with Todd Cochran. So this is why,
ooh.
Rob is one of the reasons why I know so much about podcasting, even when my podcast was on hiatus for over a year. I kept up with it because of people like Rob, and especially because of Rob, because he's so prolific in all the and he's one thing that I love about listening to Rob. And so if you're into podcasting, seriously, you got to follow him, is because he has a wealth of information from all different sides of the podcasting space. You have people that are hosts, then you've got people who just do podcasting kind of like as their side thing, like when he used to work for Microsoft and so forth. So anyway, Rob, I will be glad to send you a link over in Twitter if you wanted to come in and chat. So, and speaking about players, I'm glad you came in, Rob. But before we do that, let's see if Pam has any questions, because she's going to her dinner. Have you ever thought about doing a podcast, girl?
I did, but my hands got full.
Oh, yes. That's another thing. You don't want to have your hands in too many pots. And for me, that's why Anchor is so convenient, because Anchor lets me do it in those 5-minute segments. And right now, I'm doing a bit of a challenge. And you guys, please follow me on Twitter, and I will be posting every day. I have done a podcast so far in the month of November. And the challenge is, and it's a hashtag, not nat NADPODPOMO, National Podcast Post Month. So today is
Okay.
day 19. In fact, I'm in the middle of that podcast right now. Because on Anchor, like I said, you can record those segments. And so I'm waiting for more call-ins to come in, because that's another reason why I like Anchor, because I can integrate all those other voices with those call-ins. And I get some of the best questions from the folks over there on Anchor, and they can record the question for up to 1 minute.
And you're doing a great job at it too.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, thank you so much, dear. And Carla says she's doing NaNoWriMo. And, I don't know which one came first, Carla, because if I'm not mistaken, there was a girl on Twitter, and I can't remember her name, who started this NaPodPoMo. And she said she's been doing it for 10 years. So I don't know how long NaNoWriMo has been going on. But, it's kind of a little bit of a different level of accountability with podcasting, because you literally have to post, and it's, of course, it's public and everybody can see if you posted or not. Whereas with the NaNoWriMo, people kind of don't really know if you wrote something. unless you tell them. So that's the way I looked at it. I remember when I was just blogging before I was doing these live streams and all that. There was a few times that it was National Novel Writing Month. And I started to do it, and I was like, I don't know if I could do that every day. But talking, yeah, I can do that every day.
I still haven't mastered that.
Yes. Yes. And Tish, you put the hashtag over there, hashtag not NAPodPomo. And on my Twitter today, I pinned because today I did Q&A. And it wasn't because I didn't have a topic, but I wanted to hold that topic for tomorrow because on the weekends, things slow down over on Anchor. So I figured I would do a Q&A and then that way hold the real juicy topic for the weekday. Yeah.
Great.
So let's talk about the players. Now, a lot of folks who are podcasting, they have their websites or blog, and they're using WordPress, for example. So if you're using WordPress, there are a lot of players that are plugins. For example, Pat Flynn has a player. Everybody knows who Pat Flynn is, right?
Yes.
And he has a course out on podcasting. I don't know if the registration for it is closed, but he's a great podcasting person to follow as well. And his players, I see that on a lot of sites because the way it works is that you can see all of the not just the current episode, but you can scroll down and see the upcoming episodes. And a lot of these players, they like to make sure they add all those subscribe buttons. So subscribe on Apple Podcasts, subscribe in Google Play, subscribe on Stitcher. Stitcher is an app that's for Android, but also they do have the Apple iOS app. And, there's a few others that will be included in the podcast players. But in addition, there's a email subscription link. And so that's something that a lot of podcasters, want to make sure that they're growing their email list in addition to growing their subscriber base for their podcasts. How's your email list going, Pam? You still working on that?
Yes, it's growing daily. Yes.
Great.
On both websites.
Great. Yeah. So a podcast is another way to help attract, leads for your email list. So the other player that I want to mention, Blubrry, they have a plugin that a lot of people use. And, there's a player with that. But I don't know if Rob is still here. I'm going to assume he's not. But Rob's Spreaker, the organization that Rob works for, which is Spreaker, and I told you guys that was really my number 2 favorite host, and secretly it's number 1. They have this really attractive player, and they just made an update to it that if you don't even want that Spreaker branding on that player, you can take that Spreaker branding off. And that's something that Libsyn does not offer. If you hosting with Libsyn, unless you have like one of the big time accounts, I don't know, hundreds of dollars a month or something, you can't take their branding off of your player. It says Libsyn no matter what. But Spreaker has decided that they will let you go ahead and take their logo off of their player, which is pretty amazing. So, you know what? Pam, why don't you give us an update of what's going on with your book while I make sure everybody has this link in case they want to come in.
Okay. The official launch of the book in the Bahamas is December 9th.
Oh, tell everybody what the book is.
The book is entitled Top 10 Essential Oils for Health and Wellness. And like I mentioned, the launch in the Bahamas is on December 9th at a local bookstore called Buy the Book. It's available on Amazon right now. And yesterday was an exciting day because we did a photo shoot. And some of the photos are on Facebook, on my Facebook page. But I'm saving the best for the release. Yep.
And
What
how
else?
much is it?
The book is actually $12.99. It's all about essential oils. The top 10 essential oils that I've used over the past 7 to 10 years that has gotten rave reviews. That includes lavender, eucalyptus, peppermint, basil, bergamot. There's quite a few others. Grapefruit, rosemary, and I particularly like rosemary because it keeps you focused and mentally alert. So that's one that's very popular among business persons and students studying.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, that's something that we all need to stay alert. Maybe I need to do that instead of these energy drinks. And we got
Well,
a
thank you for allowing me to share.
You're welcome, dear. You can post. Well, you can't post that link. Post the link over here in the chat, and then I'll post it. And also, I got a great question over here from George Earl. Hey, George, how are you? And you guys make sure you connect with George. I don't know if he's got a podcast. I think he may be one of my Anchor friends. I'm not sure. But he says, just curious, what control is lost with Anchor? And, I apologize, guys, because I started talking about that and either I didn't finish talking about it or it was before George got here. One of the ways that you submit your podcast to these podcast directories, such as Apple Podcasts and Google Play, is your RSS feed. You have to set up an account and you use your email address. Your email address is on your account, just like anything else. Okay. And then if there's a problem with your feed, you'll get an email from Apple Podcasts. Or I shouldn't say if, but when Apple Podcasts comes out with their stats, because they're going to roll out stats very soon, I'd say in the next 2 or 3 months, we're all going to be able to see stats, which we were not able to see from Apple before. That's going to be in your Podcast Connect account, which you can log into with your email address. Well, when Anchor submits your podcast to iTunes, you can't see any of that because Anchor uses their email address to submit all those podcasts. So if you want to change something, you have to go through Anchor. If you want to see your stats, I don't know if Anchor's going to build something so that people can log in or maybe some kind of a portal, with a wrapper around it that you're looking at it through Anchor. I doubt it. Not right now, not while it's still free, right? Well, why would they want to do that? But right now, they're the ones that control that feed. Or let's just say there's some dispute with your account and Anchor just says, we don't want you on the platform anymore. Or let's just say they go away. That's it for your podcast. That's it because Anchor has those files. They're the host. This is why I'm recommending, and this is why it's very important. I'm glad George asked that question because this is really the whole reason why I'm doing this show, for you to prepare for 2018. There's a good and a bad. And so using Anchor is good when you're testing the waters, and maybe you just want to start a second or third podcast, or maybe you want to do like me, which I have a hybrid approach. I use Anchor for the recording and for the call-ins, and then I download those files and upload them through Libsyn. Because with Libsyn, I have direct control because Libsyn just provides me that RSS feed, which I submit to Apple Podcasts. Okay, so if that sounds a little complicated, you guys let me know anywhere that you may have got stuck and I will go over it again. I don't mind because I know it's important. And, it's like I said, it's one of the reasons why I even wanted to do this show today, was so that you guys would know. And with that, I'm also going to get ready to give you the link for Pam's book. you go. So maybe if I do a little screen share, but first I got to log in to my Apple Podcast. Actually, it's called iTunes, but
Ileane, thank
yeah.
you so much, but I'm gonna dip out.
Okay, dear, enjoy your dinner.
Thank you.
I appreciate you so much for taking the time to come in.
I appreciate you for allowing me. Bye, everyone.
All right, bye, honey. Okay, guys, I'm going to log into my account first, and then we'll do a little screen share. Oh, thank goodness, Chrome remembers. Oh, but now I got a thing from. It's confirming, and it was my two-factor identification. That's great, though. It's keeping me secure. All right. So now that I'm logged in, I can come back and show what it's going to look like. All right. So now I've had a problem with screen share in the past, so it's possible that I might not come back after this, or you'd hear me, but you wouldn't see me. But let's just give it a go and hope for the best. Okay. So here we go. This is what Podcast Connects. I'm logged in. I have logged in with my email address. I cannot log into my Anchor podcast. If I wanted to add another podcast, let's just say I started a podcast with Pam, and it was, the Philly Bahama connection or something like that, right? Then I would go in here and I would click the add button, and then I would grab that RSS feed because I probably would host it on Spreaker, right? With Rob Greenlee's outfit, which is called Spreaker. And then I would put that feed in there, and then it would tell me if it was valid or not. Okay, but right now I just have, let me back up. I just have this one. And, it gives me a little bit of details. Eventually, like I mentioned before, it will show me some stats in here. Not yet, but it's coming soon. I think podcasters are getting pretty anxious waiting for that to come. Let's see. Hopefully I'll come back to you. Yay! I'm back. Okay, so that's a really important piece, guys, for you to know. So I'm just going to go back to my notes and make sure I covered everything. And let me know if you have any questions at all. And maybe we can do a little Anchor demo. Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll show you what my Anchor podcast looks like, even though it won't be from the Podcast Connect side. And hang on. That was how it starts up. And this is the website that if you wanted to listen to my Anchor podcast on the web, you would just go over to anchor.fm/Ileane. Let me type that in. anchor.fm/ILEANE. Right? So now let me screen share that. So the great thing about Anchor is that they do provide quick links for people to go ahead and follow you on Apple Podcasts and Google Play Music. They don't expect you to people to just listen to your show on the web. Okay. So let's go to Google, listen to Google Play Music. Let's go there first. We already talked about Apple Podcasts. So there's the show. It's the Anchor Show. Now, I didn't get approval from them to use that name, but they seem to like it. The fact that I use that. And like I said, I've been doing this NADPOD so you see there every day so far in the month of November. This is where I've been publishing. And it's so much easier for me, excuse me, to do that challenge over there on Anchor rather than trying to do that on my Libsyn podcast. That would just probably, I would have fell off much sooner. I wouldn't be doing it anymore because it's a little bit more complicated, but these episodes are so much easier for me to create. So now while I'm here, while we're doing screen share, let's give some time to Spreaker. Thanks, Tish. Let's go over to my Spreaker account. So Spreaker's interface is a lot different, okay? So what you see here is you can have more than one podcast on Spreaker. Well, you can really have more than one podcast with anyone, but I think Spreaker kind of encourages that. And so this is my profile, but then here's my shows. It just so happens I only have the one show. And yes, it does have the same name as my other podcast, but currently there's different content on there. So this would be the episode list. Like Katie asked me earlier, oh, and I forgot to get back to her about how I was coming along with my smart devices. So here I recorded this episode over on Anchor where I was talking about Amazon Echo. Don't want to say her name. We were talking about Amazon Echo, okay? But I didn't publish that episode over on Anchor. I downloaded the files and uploaded it over here on Spreaker. And I did not include it in my podcast on Libsyn. Okay, I don't know how long I'm going to keep up with doing it this way, but right now, that's the deal. All right, here's another one that I've kind of been holding here on Spreaker, but it's really a good one. And it's about using quotes and the benefit or the not so much benefit of using quotes, like the good and the bad of social media quotes. Like today's episode was like a good and a bad episode. So this is only published here on Spreaker, nowhere else. Okay. So that's giving you, let me show you a little bit about the Spreaker player because we were talking about that. Let's see if I went into here. And here's the embed code, right? I think you guys are seeing this page, right? Okay. So this is what it looks like. So if I wanted to get rid of the Spreaker logo over here, I would get rid of the Spreaker logo. So I can embed that really cool player. Let's see what it looks like dark. Isn't that neat? I absolutely love that player. I wish I could use this player over on Patreon. I would just use this one, but unfortunately it doesn't work on Patreon. But this is really my favorite. This is what it looked like with, you can use the iframe code, which is very similar to that code you get from YouTube. Or if I was using a WordPress.com blog, they give me a special code for that. Okay, and I can also change the size of the player and say that I want it to be only 60 pixels wide. I think I can do that. No, I think the minimum is 80. I don't like the way that one looks, so I would just go with the regular one. Where I can get my artwork in there as well. And then if I want to enable a playlist, see how that looks? I think that is really cool. And so let's look at what the sharing options are. This is for somebody to like it. This is for someone to leave a comment. Here's the sharing options. And let's see, you've got Facebook, Twitter, and Google+. And the info is just giving you my, my show, sort of my show notes for that. Okay. So then I could say use the photo as the background. Of course, I would use a different photo, right? Because it tells me what dimensions I need, 1400 by 1400. So I would not do that. I would just do it that way. But and then you could put on play continuous too. So therefore, if somebody wanted to listen to, and they just wanted to listen to all my episodes, wouldn't you just love that, Tish? You could just listen to all my episodes there. So if I had all of my Anchor podcasts over here, this would be a great way for me to promote my Anchor podcast. And I'm seeing here, it's just saying featured. That's cute. It's got a little crown there. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me make that bigger because I really like that. I'm just noticing it. So see how responsive it was? So this one is saying feature because that's the one that's up top. Like if I probably was to play that one. No, maybe this show got featured somehow. I'm not sure. I think that's really cool that it says featured. So I got to ask Rob Greenlee about that. Why it says featured. I don't know what that means. Okay, so let me see. What else can I show you all before I do stop this last screen share? Let's go back over here to Anchor for a second. And let's just see what it looks like on the Apple Podcasts. Oh, and it still says iTunes. And, folks like Tish and, hashtag Ileane is correct. Thank you. Tish knows that, one of the things that iTunes took away was the ability to get your apps from your computer. You can't do that anymore. So even though it still says iTunes, see, this is the problem that Apple is having with rebranding. They want to rebrand this and call it Apple Podcast, but yet when you come over here, it says iTunes. So, and I know people still have the iTunes computer, but then it says view on iTunes, and it's just it gets confusing. And I know they're probably trying to straighten that out. Oh, here's another thing. Back to George's question about losing control. See, when you're on Apple Podcasts, it asks for your podcast website. So guess where that's going to go? It's going to go back to Anchor.
Hey guys.
All right. So now let's check where my other podcast goes. Okay, which is Miss Ileane Speaks. Now, in order for me to get there, I have to go to my website. Okay, then I'll go to Apple Podcasts. All right, now I just closed my website down so you guys can see that now when I come down here and says podcast website, it's going to go back to my website, not to my Anchor page. Big difference. And it also opened up iTunes in the background. You guys didn't see that. Okay, so that's a big difference. This is what we mean when we say you lose control. Your podcast now belongs to Anchor. So I still think that Anchor is a great option for somebody who's just like, I don't care about RSS feeds. I don't even, I'm not even sure I want to do a podcast. Let me get this Anchor app and download it. See how you feel talking into the mic. Now, I recommend that you use this lavalier microphone. I'm so glad I had it handy. And of course, this is only going to work for certain iPhones. It's not going to work for the newer ones unless you have a dongle or something. But the one that I love to use is the Rode Smart Lav Plus. It's got a little tangled there because I had it in the bag. Okay. Which is, lavalier microphone, and it's Rode Smart Lav Plus. And the link is in the description to this video. And you can go over to my Amazon shop. In fact, that's another thing. I should probably show you my Amazon shop since we're talking about gear. And I did, in fact, I wanted to make an announcement. I just heard from Daryl Eves that Amazon has reduced the requirements. Well, I shouldn't say they reduced the requirements. They're now also considering your Twitter following and your Instagram following. So all those, if you got rejected for the Amazon influencer program before, you can go back now and reapply if you've got a following on Twitter. So I have to make sure I tell Larry Snow about that because he's got a nice following, a nice engaged following over there on Twitter. And so let me show you my Amazon store. And you can get there by going on my website. Okay. And at the top of the page, you see shop. And that shop goes to my Amazon influencer store. It's amazon.com/shop/Ileane Smith. And, my daughter's book is going to be available over there very soon. They're waiting for the shipment to come in. But, here's the mic. Here's the mic I was just showing you, the Smart Lav Plus, the one that I'm using right now, which is the ATR 2100. The webcam I'm using right now, which is the Logitech C920. All those links are in the description. And then there's the smart devices here, the Echo. Oh, that's the Dot, actually. Michelle Earl, do you have any recommendations for those who use Android? Recommendations for what, Michelle? For what specific thing? For gear or for apps or what? This stuff can all be used with Android. This Rode Smart Lav Plus can be used with Android. Okay, if that's what you meant. And of course, you need a tripod. Well, you don't need a tripod for podcasting, but for live streaming, you definitely need a tripod. Now, I recommend this book for everybody. For gear, I know, but to do podcasting, you mean? Yes, this Rode Smart Lav Plus. Let me click on it so you'll see. This microphone is for iPhones and smartphones. It definitely works on Android because I've used it on an Android phone before. Yep, works great. And what it does is, especially if you're outside, it's amazing because it has that little teeny windscreen on it. And that little windscreen will help keep down the wind, noise, and everything when you're outside. Okay, so let's see if I can come back on cam. And maybe I can show you that. Yay, okay. I think it doesn't like when I show my phone. That's when it gets confused. So, in fact, when you get this mic, when you get it in the mail, right, you might be a little confused about how to set it up. So let me show you how to set it up. I'm glad I got a white background so I can show you. This is the windscreen I'm talking about. So really, your microphone is only this little. This is the windscreen. See? See the little hole there? Okay. So when you get it, you're going to try to figure out, how do I put this lavalier piece on? Well, I'll have to show you when I take it off. There's a little spring there. See that spring? And you hold the spring back with your finger. That opens it up enough for you to stick the microphone through. Okay? Then you put the windscreen on. It's like a little hat to keep its little ears warm so it can make you sound good. And there you go. And then you just pin it on. I put it on backwards because I normally like to pin it on this side of me. So I just put it on upside down. That's okay. Let's just do it again. I got to remember which way I put it in. And so now I'll turn it upside down before I put the thing back on. Now see, now the clip's on the way I want it to. Right? So now you can hide that. You put it underneath. I always like that when I'm live streaming, if I'm using this or whatever, for whatever reason I'm using this, I like to wear it on the outside because then people ask about it and then I'd let them know because I'm an affiliate for Amazon. And so you can go over to my Amazon store and get all my goodies. So why not show it? There's no point in hiding it. Everybody knows that you have a microphone on. I don't know what's the big deal about putting it under your shirt. So yeah, I absolutely love that microphone. In fact, Rode initially came out with a microphone called the Smart Lav, and it had a lot of static in it, and it was so many complaints from podcasters and from the community that they came out with the Smart Lav Plus. And so now a lot of times when people will say the Smart Lav, but they don't really mean that. They really mean the Smart Lav Plus. And I don't even know if they sell the Smart Lav anymore. I'm not even going to go look it up. It's the Plus is the one that you want. And you'll know, it says it right on the box. I'll show you that again. This is like really one of my essential pieces of gear I carry in my pocketbook every day. So you know. Okay, see, it's the Smart Laugh Plus. Okay, and it comes with this little cute little pouch. The little pouch is so adorable. Oh, but it has a little drawstring on it. You know, it just makes it convenient so that the cord doesn't get all wrapped around inside your bag. And speaking of cords, there's the other cord that I really like. Let me go back to my shop page that I've been using to keep my phone charged at night, because at night I've been listening to my Anchor. Now, this is for iPhone only, okay, because this is a lightning cable. This lightning cable from these folks over at Noise is 13 feet. So that no matter where the plug is, no matter what side of the bed the plug is on, I've got my phone right next to me. So if I want to, I can record something real quick, maybe give somebody a call in or whatever. I can do that, you know, without worrying about my phone running out of juice. And this cord is very reliable. And I love that this little leather strap helps you keep it, you know, because it's long. It's really long. So it helps you keep it organized. So you can see how many times it wraps around that. So I absolutely love it. In fact, it's I can't even show you mine because it's in my bedroom right now, plugged up, waiting for whenever I recline. You know, I can do that and still charge my phone. So that's why I love that one. Okay, guys. So yeah, thoughts between the canvases. Love that. And I'm sorry, I did not give you a shout out earlier. So let me go back over here and show the chat room one more time. Oh, sorry. I saw you in the other corner of my eye, and then something else happened. But hey, girl, how are you? Let's give you a shout out over here. And I so appreciate you and everybody who comes to my live streams. And, you know, I always tell you guys, connect with each other because, you know, it's all about community, right? So make sure thoughts between the canvases, you know, you just go up here and go to channel. Now, you won't have as many options as I do. You only have like 2 or 3 options. And then there's Michelle Earl. Okay, you go to her channel. And Michelle, I'm not sure I'm subscribed to you, so I'm going to your channel right now. I'm telling everybody else to do it. So, yeah. So, Michelle, I'm looking at your channels and I see you don't have a banner up. We're not doing a YouTube thing today, but I will say you need to have a banner so people know what you're going to be, what your videos are going to be about. And she said, because of my enormous resources. Okay, let me show the thoughts between canvases. Are you guys seeing that? No, because you're seeing the chat. All right, let me show you what I mean here. So see how, Michelle, I just want you to take note of how this banner is like so attractive, so intriguing. She just makes you like so curious, like, what's this girl about? I gotta subscribe to her channel, right? So having this banner is just really a critical piece of growing your channel. And you know, your banner, you just need something here that lets folks know what your channel is about. That's all. Great. And so I see that you're a legally blind gamer and artist who loves to try new things. Well, I appreciate you, dear. I'm so sorry when I was asking you to look at something, but just so you know, there's that banner there that, and you know, you may be able to get somebody to help you with it. I'm not sure. You said you're also an artist, so just go in there and edit your banner and upload, and YouTube gives you the dimensions that you need to use. Okay, sweetie? You know, just take a picture or put some of your art up there. There you go. She says she can. Thank you. Okay, you're welcome, hon. You know, because I can see you just really got started with your channel. And so I want to see you succeed. I want to see you succeed. Honestly, if it was up to me, we wouldn't need banners, but YouTube made it so that we have to have banners. I wish I could put a new banner up every day, but then all the gurus say, no, you want to maintain your branding so that people will always know who you are and what you do. And like, yeah, whatever. Why can't I just put up a black and white thing that just says Miss Ileane? Is that going to work? No, that's not going to work. Hey, I am my brand. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been a fun talk about podcasting. Hey, why don't you think about becoming a patron over on Patreon? I have a couple patrons here. Tisha's here. I think Katie's still here. And what I like to do is provide different content for the patrons. And also, we do all different kinds of things that only happens over there on Patreon. Hashtag Ileane is her brand. And so let me just give you a sneak peek of the Patreon page before we go. And that's patreon.com/Ileane. And let's get the screen share before we go and finish up the podcast over on Anchor. Wait, I lost track of what window I'm sharing. This one. It's just not on the right tab yet. There you go. Now it's on the right tab. So here you go. You can come in at the $5 a month level, or the $12 a month level, or the $25 a month level. And you can see here that these posts that were for patrons, if you come over and just look at the page, you'll see you can't see it because you're not a patron. All right. Can podcasts be imported to Anchor? Yes, they can. They have an RSS feed importer. But Michelle, where is your podcast currently being hosted? Or do you just have the files and it's not really an official podcast? Sorry, guys, I'm closing down all these tabs. I'll stop screen sharing since I'm getting rid of my busy work here. Because that's a good question. But Michelle, I just want to make sure that we're using the same lingo. Because when you say, can your podcast be imported? Where is your podcast now? Or do you just have files, audio files that you want to import? Because Anchor it's on Spreaker. Okay, so if it's on Spreaker, you just get that RSS feed from Spreaker, and Anchor has an RSS feed importer. And let me see if I can figure out where that is. Yes, I know what you meant, Michelle. I know you made a typo. Let me see if I can figure out where that is. Let me just go to the Anchor regular website. And already have a podcast. Here it is. Okay, I found it. So let me go back to screen share. It's a fantastic question because this is not something that people normally want to do. But there is a fantastic community over on Spreaker. So here it is. Already have a podcast. Switch to Anchor for free. So when you click on that, it's called Switch. And I'm going to post that link over into the chat, Michelle. So then you can click on that link. So it's anchor.fm/switch. And then you just get that RSS feed from Spreaker and click, paste it in there and then click let's go. And it will start importing your feed. But then in order to keep the podcast up, you still need to get that app. And, Michelle, I got to be honest with you. It's an amazing app for folks that are visually impaired. There are so many visually impaired people on Anchor. And you may have heard of it from some of your friends in the community because the voiceover, and especially if you said you have an Android. But if you had an iPhone, I think it probably would be better. I don't know if the voiceover is all that great in Android, but I know it does work. May not be as great as in the iPhone. But you can still use it. There are visually impaired people that are on Android as well. They may have a little challenges with things being on the left, whereas they're on the right on other places. So, iPhone has that voiceover, and but there are a lot of visually impaired people. You know, there's one guy on there who plays the guitar, and you know he does it every day, and he's visually impaired. There's just so many people. I can't even. I mentioned him. He's the first person that came to my mind because for the first 3 or 4 months, I didn't even know he was visually impaired. And then someone mentioned it to me, and I was like, oh, I didn't know. But usually the other folks who come on, and because they talk more, he usually plays the guitar, but everybody else usually talks, and they will mention voiceover. And so usually when somebody mentions it, oh, so you already have Anchor. Great. That's fantastic. So Michelle, what will be your handle? Type in the chat what your handle is over there on Anchor so I can make sure that I'm following you, and I call into your station and give you a shout out, and give you a shout out on my channel over on Anchor so everybody know to follow you. Oh, they call it favoriting somebody's station. You have Anchor on iPhone. Oh yeah, I have it on iPhone too, Katie. Absolutely. It's, you know, it works best. It actually works just as good on Android, but okay, God's Michelle. All right, I'm gonna write that down because y'all know I'm not as young as I used to be, right? And so I might forget. and you and that's another thing. Haven't broadcasted yet. That's okay. Oh, okay, Katie, I got you. Katie, what are you Katie Fries over there? I don't even know if I have favorited your station. Seems like I would have. And what are you waiting for? Why haven't you broadcasted yet? Why can't you just say, hi, I'm Katie, and I'm thinking about making a podcast? Thank you. Oh, Tish says I look great. Thank you. Oh, my daughter had a book signing today. And so I went to church because it was at her church. And now I have to write on Anchor because I just wrote Guys and Michelle. Later on, I'll look at that and be like, what about Guys and Michelle? So this time, buttons aren't labeled well on Android. Yeah, I think it's a little bit more challenging, Michelle. But guess what? We have so many helpful people over on the Anchor app. And I'll tell you who you need to follow because there could be days when all his call-ins and questions will come from visually impaired people. And the person that you need to follow is Ask Avi. And I'm going to write it in the chat. It's Avi Uniglicht. And that's one reason why I know there's so many visually impaired people, because I listen to his station and a lot of them will call in with questions. It's almost like he's like the glue that ties everybody together, because they know that he knows how to troubleshoot that, even though he's not visually impaired, but he knows how to troubleshoot, and he has his resources. Went to the beautification in Detroit yesterday. So beautiful, amazing. Oh, I didn't even know that there was a beautification, or am I saying that wrong? Seems like it would be a beatification, but okay. So anyway, Michelle, I got two conversations going on here. Oh, let me put up the screen share so you guys can see why I all of a sudden started talking about the Detroit. Beatification, yes, that you makes a difference. I was going to say I never heard of a beautification, but a beatification I heard of, but I did not know that they had one in Detroit. Katie, thanks for letting me know, dear. And so Ask Avi. Oh, as a matter of fact, Michelle, I'm going to put his whole station here. So it's anchor.fm/ASKAVIE. Search for him or find him. And he's also on Twitter, and he also has askavi.com website. And he is like, one of the most helpful guys. And he will definitely, help you with your Android issues. And because he's been on Anchor so long, because he's been on Anchor so long, he's got such a huge network of people. So then if he doesn't know the answer, then he asks someone else. Just like the same with me. I don't know the answer, but I know I could ask Avi. And so, and Avi's he's a connector like that too. So he would know who else has Android over there that's visually impaired that could help you with the identification of the buttons and the positions of the different buttons. But I do know that just recording and all that is pretty straightforward. And then Katie, we were still talking about Detroit, and it's Friar Salonis Casey was beatified, the first step to sainthood. Cool. I did not know that. Thank you so much, Katie, for letting us know. Well, God bless him, and God bless you and your family as well. And Michelle, you just typed in an I, so I guess, can you monetize podcasting anymore? Back in the day, you could, but not sure if you can now. Any ideas? Yeah, sure. To monetize your podcast, you can through growing your subscriber base. You can get sponsors. You can get sponsors for your podcast. And I'll tell you how my daughter monetizes hers. And I think this would probably be something that would be more in line with what you do, doctor. She has a book, right? She has events. And, she also has a membership. And, you hear people on the internet talking about membership sites and all that, but this is an in-person membership. So they meet every Wednesday, and it's a real estate league. And I'll show you. And this all started because of her podcast. People that she was interviewing on the podcast, it turned into that she started getting into that. Cool. I have some vision. Who is best for iPhone? My husband has some questions. Oh, you do have some vision. Good. So she uses it to stir traffic to her membership. Yep. And if you please listen to her podcast. In fact, I'm going to, yeah, I know you meant steer traffic. I'm going to put the link to her website over here just so you can see how she's doing. Listen to the podcast. And by the way, I didn't say it, but her name is Nicole Purvey, Purvy. And her podcast is Better Than Success. And I will screen share that in a momento for you guys. And I am so extremely, extremely proud of my daughter right now. I'm just beaming with pride. Can you tell I'm beaming? And okay, so one of the things that she's branched into, like I said, events. She did something called the Women in Real Estate Summit. Okay, there's the book that she has, The Anti-Hustle. Remember I said that she did a book signing today at her church. And here's the event, which was the Women in Real Estate Summit. So it was not only did we pack the house with 200 women and real estate investors, but she also is selling the virtual ticket. And coming in June, big announcement, the Philly Real Estate Week is coming June 4th to the 9th. And my daughter has spearheaded that effort and is working with people in city council. I mean, it's just like 1 minute she was podcasting, the next thing you know, she's just like blowing up. Amazing adventure. And let me just scroll down a little to show you guys. I forgot what screen share. Okay, you are seeing this right, screen share. That's where she was, the webinars, the podcasts, and this was her interviewing someone who is a very influential labor union leader here. And so this is how she monetizes her podcast. Now, this is not the route that most people go. This is where we're on stage at the event, and this private realty investor that she interviewed, and this was another book signing that she did. So, not to just go on and on and on about my daughter, although I could, but to answer your question, Dr. Taryn, is to think outside the box. Don't just think about putting commercials on your podcast. Think about the products you can make, right? And then you can be your own sponsor, right? And she is a trailblazer, thoughts between the canvases. She sure is. Also, no banner yet, Katie. Oh, okay. Have you started creating for my channel? What questions? Have not started creating for my channel yet. Send me a DM. Oh, okay. Katie was connecting with Michelle. Yes. And yeah, if we're on Facebook, make sure you guys are all connected on Facebook, all that stuff so we can, yes, what community is all about. So yeah. So that's a great question, Dr. Taryn, about monetizing podcasts. Most people think about same way with YouTube. It's the same thing. Most people think about AdSense and they get all bent out of shape about AdSense, demonetization, and all that kind of stuff. But if you have your own products and you're using this content creation to drive people to your products, then you become your own sponsor. Then you don't have to worry about YouTube can change anything they want with monetization. The latest thing that they have, like with these live streams, so when this live stream is over, they'll initially say it's monetized, and then maybe half an hour later, they'll say, "Oh, not suitable for advertisers," and you can't even submit it submit it to be monetized unless you have 1,000 views within 7 days. It's like, what? Just request a review, and I request a review, and then within hours it's approved. And I'm not knocking YouTube. They have to have some kind of way to make sure that their advertisers are happy with the videos that their ads are being shown on. But I use YouTube Red myself, so I don't even see any of those ads. I'd rather pay YouTube. So we as content creators need to think outside the box and not just think about, you know, getting sponsors. The other thing my daughter did at that event, and what she's still doing, is she's selling gear. She's selling the t-shirts and the hats. She's got the t-shirts and sweatshirts for the league, as well as the hats, and also for the book. So you could have the Better Than Success sweatshirt, or you could have the Anti-Hustle sweatshirt or hat. Okay. So you got to diversify. Yep. Working on taking my earnings off YouTube is too unstable to make a living. Yeah. And so you start with products, and like behind the scenes slowly, even though I'm not as concerned about for myself, but I have to be realistic. Behind the scenes slowly, I'm using these videos to start building my products, because these videos can be transcribed and turned into products, right? There's a bunch of transcription services out there. And then also the affiliate, that's the other thing, Dr. Taryn, the affiliate income from, the things that you recommend. And you only recommend things that you use and that you have confidence in, and that will benefit your audience. That's why I showed you guys my Amazon page. Do you guys know I can have tons and tons of stuff over there on that Amazon page? But I only want to have the stuff over there that I know I've used it and I use it all the time, or books that I've read. I'm not going to just throw books over there that I don't even, like I never even really read that book, but I heard it was good. I'll just throw that in there. No. Maybe as time goes by, but right now I'm just focused on serving my audience and having stuff there that when you guys go over there, you're not confused. Like, I don't know what book to buy. I don't know what mic to buy. Yep. I got 2 mics over there. If you don't like one, you get the other one that's a little cheaper. Only have 1 lavalier microphone over there, so other people will probably do it differently. Because, Amazon is a big place. They sell everything. And I could put food and everything else in there if I wanted to. But, you got to just diversify. And you know what? It helps when you're not like greedy and desperate, because people they can smell it. Like, oh, that person is just greedy. They just want to get my money. And so, you have to walk a fine line. So with that, also, there's Patreon, and Dr. Taryn, you may do well with Patreon. And Patreon actually has a podcasting, and I should have mentioned that earlier. It's not technically a podcast because it's not in iTunes or anything like that, or in Apple Podcast, I meant to say. But, you can use that podcast inside of Patreon for your patrons only. They're the only ones that can listen to that podcast. And I don't know if that will ever change, that the podcast can also be made public. I think Patreon may need to work out the fine details of that. So, okay, guys. I really appreciate your questions and all of your feedback, and all the time that you spent here with me this afternoon. It's been fantastic, amazing. And I will definitely be back next weekend. And you guys make sure you connect with each other. I'm going to give you a minute to go ahead and click on those little three dots. And once again, Dr. Taryn, thank you for the super chat. That was oh so nice of you. And I believe I'm saying the last name Lupo. I mean, it looks like it's just pronounced Lupo. So let me know if I'm not saying it right. Just let me know, but I think I am. And yeah, it's always great to hang out with you guys. And that's why I've done it every weekend for over a year now. And I'm glad that you enjoy hanging out with me as well. It's been amazing. So with that, I'm going to finish up. Oh, okay. Patricia came back. Thanks, Pat. I'm going to go finish up my laundry for the weekend. And you guys have a wonderful week ahead. And yes, it was a great YouTube church today, Tish. Thank you so much, dear. And bye for now.